Sid Sports Sunday. Every Sunday from the NJDiet.com studios. 77 WABC New York. On Cumulus Station. This is Sid Sports Sunday. Driven by Ramsey Mazda. Sid Rosenberg. The stories, the stats, the edge.
From the corner. 17 seconds from Game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan open. Chicago with the lead. The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship.
The moments.
He's off to the Devils, plays it cross ice into the far corner. Meto swoops in to intercept. Meto behind the net. Swings it in front. He's down. Meto. Defend Meto. And the Rangers have one more hill to climb, baby. But it's moved Vancouver. The Rangers are headed to the finals.
This is Sid Sports Sunday, driven by Ramsey Mazda on 77 WABC. Now, Sid Rosenberg.
"17 floors above, legendary Madison Square Garden. In about 3.5 hours from now, the hockey blue shirts, your New York Hockey Rangers, set to host the Washington Capitals in a big game locally. And I say it's a big game because when you check those NHL standings, you're going to notice that the Capitals are tied atop the Metropolitan Division with 81 points with your New York Islanders, who also play later on today. The Isles in Brooklyn will host the Philadelphia Flyers. That's coming up in about 6 hours. A huge day of hockey here in New York City, and again starts right downstairs. Hey, folks, welcome back. It's a Sid Sports Sunday on the first Sunday in March. And this is a great time of year if you're a sports fan. You start, of course, with the NCAA basketball conference 20s now, about 2 weeks away. The much heralded Big East tournament starts March 13th again, right downstairs at Madison Square Garden. Got the 8-10 conference 20 at Barclays in Brooklyn. You got the ACC in Charlotte, North Carolina. That all comes your way in less than 2 weeks. And then, of course, you've got the big NCAA basketball tournament, which is the most exciting sports event, in my opinion, of the year. Then during that tournament, folks, as if that's not enough, 3 weeks from Thursday will be opening day. Your New York Mets and New York Yankees, both in action today, by the way, spring training baseball. Both will start their seasons on March 28th, as will Bryce Harper with the Philadelphia Phillies. As if that's not enough, not long after that, in the month of April, you've got the greatest golf tournament of the year. Jim Nantz, my buddy in CBS, at the Masters and the NFL Draft. So all that coming your way in about a month's time. This is arguably the most exciting time of the year if, in fact, you're a sports fan. Hey, it's also exciting if you're a political fan. I got to tell you, the Bernie and Sid in the Morning Show kicking major ass every single day. The best morning show in New York City. 6 to 10 every single morning. Even the CBS bosses that put together Boomer and Carton and Boomer and Geo listen to us. And are quick to admit, because I met with them just 3 days ago, that we've got the best morning show in New York City. Nobody's more diverse. Nobody is more thorough. Nobody is funnier. We do everything from sports to politics, to news, to porn. It doesn't matter. If it's a big story, we're going to do it. And at the risk of sounding like a real dick, there's nobody funnier than me and Bernie in the morning. Nobody. Don't compare Boomer or Geo or Len Berman, my God. Or what's the other guy who goes to the Broadway shows, Twinkle Toes?
Riedel.
Yeah, that guy. I mean, come on. Let's be honest about stuff here, okay? But I have just been already contacted by our great producer, Jill, Florio Flipper, Jill Vitale, who's amazing, that she may be late tomorrow if she comes in at all. Because there's a snowstorm coming tonight. You wouldn't know it. Sunny today and very, very nice. Cold, but sunny. 8 to 12 inches, Jill says she's going to get tonight, which is about 4 more than she gets from Vic on a Saturday night. But seriously, are we getting a real big snowstorm, Guns? Is Put your mic on. I'm going to involve you in this first segment quite a bit today.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, you got your Bill Evans and all them. They always tell us about these snowstorms.
He retired.
Oh, that's a shame.
He's in radio now. He's completely out of television.
I was a bigger fan of Sam Champion anyway. But having said that, though, Amy Freeze, love her. No, it's 35, 40 degrees outside. It's not going to snow. We're all good. It's all good.
They're calling for a foot, you moron. What are you talking about?
They always do this. Let not your heart be troubled.
No, you're right. You're right. That a lot of times they do get over dramatic, but we're going to get something. It's not going to be a beach day tomorrow, Guns.
It's just a dusting.
Just a dusting. All right. They take it from Guns. That's the guy.
It is amazing, though. Any other profession besides weatherman or an NFL referee, if you blew as many calls as they did,
see what he did?
You'd get fired.
Well, what about the left? What about all the times that MSNBC and CNN said Donald Trump had no chance of winning?
How about that? Collusion, et cetera.
Right. They've been. Did you say et cetera?
Yeah, et cetera.
No, it's et cetera. There's no X in the word. Yeah. Anyway, let's get to the sports. We've got a lot to cover here. So, college basketball yesterday, Duke goes out there, third consecutive game without Zion Williamson, their monster star, a guy that New York Knickerbocker fans like myself salivating over the potential of drafting this kid in the NBA draft this summer, but he's been out now. He now misses his third consecutive game yesterday. Doesn't matter. Duke just takes Miami, my beloved Hurricanes, and Jim Larinaga to the woodshed, beaten by about 30. Not even a game. So they're playing great basketball. Tennessee, a couple of weeks ago, lost to John Calipari and Kentucky. Had a chance to exact revenge yesterday, and Rick Barnes and the Volunteers did just that. They hammered Kentucky. Virginia, number 2 in the country, they get an easy win over Pittsburgh. Most of the teams that you thought would win yesterday, Gonzaga, the number 1 team, struggled in the first half, but ran away from St. Mary's in the second half. They get themselves a double-digit easy win as well. There was one really exciting game last night, and that was Nevada. Nevada is a 12th-ranked team in the country. They're one of those teams that when you ask coaches and analysts around the country who can be a dangerous team when you go out of the top 10, they're quick to mention Nevada. Well, they took on a team last night, Utah State, who very quietly has won 23 basketball games already this year. They've been a powerhouse. And Utah State had the chance with a home win over Nevada to have the best record in the Mountain West. With a win last night, Utah State would have gone to 14-3, and Nevada would have fallen to 13-3. Well, sure enough, Utah State got the win. It was amazing. First win over a top 15 team in forever. And then the fans for the Utah State Aggies rushed the court. Now, we see this every now and then, baseball games. I did it. I ran out to the field at Chase Stadium, grabbed myself some grass and dirt when Ron Darling and the Mets beat the Cubs in 1986 to win the NL East. We've seen it during football games, basketball especially. But basketball is kind of dangerous, right? Because the court's kind of small. Players are trying to make their way to the locker room. And before you know it, you got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 people on that court, and bedlam sets in. Well, at Utah State last night, bedlam set in a big way. In fact, the Nevada players contend that the Utah State fans were manhandling them, punching them, yelling at them, racial slurs, all kinds of nastiness. It proceeded to follow them through the locker room where eventually Nevada's players went nuts. One guy actually punched the fire extinguisher. Right, Guns? I mean, it got very, very nasty. So it's a great win for Utah State. Big win over a big-time basketball team. But the fans, you got to control yourselves. There's no reason to act like that. It's ridiculous. Michigan State, a terrible loss yesterday, had a double-digit lead in the second half, lost to Indiana. So right now, folks, we're talking about positioning. Right, we're talking about before the conference 20s, where will these teams end up seeding-wise for the NCAA basketball tournament? There's a chance the ACC, out of the 4 regions, may have 3 number 1s. That's never been done. Duke, obviously. Virginia, obviously, and North Carolina. North Carolina gets a big win on the road at Clemson yesterday. Roy Williams gets hurt. How does that happen? The coach, he couldn't even coach the second half of that game, but UNC gets a big win. And that brings me to this discussion. So I'm watching UNC Clemson in my living room. My wife and son are in the bedroom watching some Spider-Man movie. She didn't feel well, Danielle. So I'm in the living room, got my hand down my pants, so happy. College basketball on, cold night, nobody bothering me. And UNC wins. So the game is over, and I get up to get myself a protein shake. And I come back about 5 minutes later, and I had left ESPN on my television. This was not appointment TV. Sorry, Bernie McGurk, who I love desperately. This was not appointment TV. But I go back to my couch, and on ESPN was UFC 235. Another one of these fakakta UFC, Dana White, Bernie McGurk, Mike Gunzelman events. And look, I've gotten into it somewhat because of Bernie. We've had Dana White on the Bernie and Sid show many times now. We've had countless fighters in studio, right, from Frankie Edgar to Mickey Galley to the Cowboy, Rick Cerrone. We've had them all. Paige Van Zandt. I know the sport, and I do watch these events, but don't confuse the issue. It's the dumbest sport. The fans are a bunch of lowlives. Don't start telling me about the money and the doctors and the lawyers. Lowlives. And half the boxers look like there's no way they should be allowed to walk the streets. That guy Sanchez last night, the other guy who has like that long Arab name, who was that guy with the freaky hair? He won easily, but what's that guy's name?
Adesanya.
He's disgusting. He's disgusting. I mean, say what you want about Mayweather. He may beat his wife, but he looks good. These UFC boxers, they're disgusting. Maybe not Paige Van Zandt. So the thing is, so Mickey Galley was in studio with me and Bernie not that long ago. So I'm like, I want to see this kid win. Gets his ass kicked. Sanchez, who doesn't want to fight in like 12 years, destroys him. Then I'm like, all right, I'm sitting here. I may as well watch the rest of this nonsense. So then this Woodley guy, who was a welterweight champ, takes on, is it Usman?
Usman, yeah. And Woodley had defended the belt 4 times in a row, all right? But he's 36, so he's up there in age. And he got worked. And
why do you think I need these extra specifics you're throwing in here? What made you think I even care?
Well, because it was very important.
No, it's not important to anybody. Nobody. Maybe you and Bernie and 15,000 losers. Anyway, here's this guy, Usman, after he beat Tyrone Woodley. Let's get Gunzelman back to the sound.
Kamaru Usman, that was one of the most spectacular performances I've ever seen in my entire career calling fights. A stunning performance.
Now, I'm going to be honest. I might not be the best striker in the world. I might not be the best pure wrestler in the world. Yeah. But when it comes to mixing this up, I'm the best welterweight on the planet right now.
Right. You're a moron. So then the big fight comes up, and this is this guy, John Jones, who's just a degenerate lowlife. Not that I should talk. Steroids, cocaine. Really, I shouldn't talk. Boy, do I sound like a hypocrite. But John Jones, this is the big guy. You know, this guy's won 15 straight. Had a chance with a win last night to tie Anderson Silva for the most consecutive fights without a loss. That would be 16, folks. And improve his record to 24-1. Now, in the 4th round against this guy, Anthony Smith, who was just getting his ass kicked, there was a kick by Jones, illegal. He did lose points, but some people thought he should have been disqualified. This is where you come in, Guns, as the UFC expert, which is about as important as being an expert on, carbon monoxide. Tell me, was that an illegal kick, and should Jones have been disqualified?
He probably should have been disqualified. The thing is, Anthony Smith did not want the BS cheap victory, so he said he could keep fighting. But afterwards, they spoke to the commission, and they said, yeah, that was an illegal
hit. So John Jones, go to my Twitter, at Sid Rosenberg. You can vote on this today. John Jones got an easy win over Anthony Smith last night at UFC 235 to run his unbeaten streak to 16 fights. Should he have been disqualified for his illegal knee in the 4th round? The Gun Show breaks it down this morning, as he just did.
Woo!
And you can vote. So far, 23% say yes, he should have been disqualified. 46% say no, and 31% say, just give me some more McGregor. Let's go to the NBA. Good job there, Gunsy. Well, was it a good event, big-time event?
It was a great event. Actually, so I was up at Doc Watson's on the Upper East Side. They love you, by the way. And I actually...
that's a bar up there, right?
Yeah, I brought a girl to watch the fight.
Oh, my God, so you're not gay. Look at that. He brought a girl to watch the fight.
So they show the fights for free up there. So last night I had a first date. I brought her to watch the fights because I was like, I got to watch the fights for Sid Sports Sunday.
That is so romantic.
She didn't go home with me.
No, of course not. You were surprised?
Story of my life. I brought her to watch UFC.
Right. There's nothing less romantic in life than UFC. Nothing. You were better off taking it to, like, Washington Heights for a cockfight. Or back to your apartment for a cockfight, for that matter. Anyway, let's go to the NBA. Another terrible loss for the Lakers last night. You know, LeBron James, he gets hurt on Christmas Day, I should say. And the Lakers are beating the daylights as a huge underdog, the Golden State Warriors. And the Lakers all of a sudden like a top 4 seed, right? They look great. LeBron James is there. You're saying, hey, maybe Magic Johnson will add some players at the trade deadline. And some guys were saying, guys like Stephen A. Smith on this show, the Lakers at that point back in December may have been the only team, right? Not Utah, not San Antonio, not Oklahoma City, not Denver. The only team that could have beaten Golden State. James gets hurt. They lose a bunch of games. He's been back since January. Their record since then, 4-8. And last night they hit the bottom. They got blown out by the worst team in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns, right there with the Knicks. And I say blown out. The Lakers made it close late, but they lose. LeBron, 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 16 assists, but not enough. Lakers find themselves now at 30-33, 4.5 back of both the Clippers and the Spurs for the 8th and final playoff spot in the Western Conference. So now, all of a sudden, it's looking more and more likely, with about 19 regular season games to go, that LeBron James will not make the playoffs. He ain't happy. Here was LeBron James after the latest loss.
Obviously we needed this game for obvious reasons. And we wanted to play well. Just unfortunate with the opportunity that we've had, and we haven't been able to seize the opportunity. I'm not here to harp on the negativity or the negative. We had opportunities, played better here. We could have played better there. I mean, that's been throughout the whole season. It's a tough loss.
We have another poll up this morning. Kyle Kuzma, LeBron's teammate with the Lakers, one of the better young players. Here it is. Kuzma, after a terrible loss to the lowly Phoenix Suns last night, says, quote, there's something wrong with this team. It's quite a statement. Lakers are just 4-8 since LeBron's return and now find themselves, as I said, 4.5 back of the Clips and Spurs for the 8th spot, the final playoff spot inside the Western Conference. Can Luke Walton possibly survive this? 6% say yes, 63% say no, 31% say it's up to LeBron. Again, you can vote on all of these Sid Sports polls on my Twitter page at Sid Rosenberg. 3 up today, one about LeBron and the Lakers, one about John Jones and UFC last night, and one about Bryce Harper with the Phillies. One other NBA note last night, the Nets, who right now are solid as the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. They got their doors blown off in Miami last night, lost by 29 points to the Miami Heat as we continue our farewell tour for one of my favorite people and players in NBA history, and that is Dwayne Wade. Wade had 9 points last night. Olenek led the way with 25. Right now the Heat are the 10th seed. They likely will not make the playoffs. So there's a good chance that neither LeBron James and or Dwayne Wade will play postseason basketball this year. But here was Dwayne's quote after the Heat beat the Nets by 29 last night.
We needed to keep that lead. Obviously at this time of the year, everyone has games coming rapidly. So, you don't want to always have to be in a full quarter battle. If you get an opportunity, it was a good team win for us.
All right, thank you, Dwayne. So there it is, folks. Let's set the show up. It's a big-time show today. Again, Rangers and Capitals coming up at 12:30. Islanders and Flyers coming up at 3. We're going to talk Rangers, Islanders, all of the NHL. Exciting time of year for hockey fans with the best hockey analyst in the business, ESPN's Barry Melrose. He's coming up next. Also on today's show, Mike Missinelli, #1 talk show host in Philadelphia on Bryce Harper and the Phillies. Also on today's show, Mr. Football himself from ProFootballTalk.com, the man that created that website. Now he's a star on NBC as well, Mike Florio. Plus, Danny B's got his picks, and Curtis with his spectacular minute. And, of course, the great Mike Gunzelman, Sid Rosenberg on a Sid Sports Sunday. We're just getting started. We're kicking ass, folks. Keep it right here. All right, back here on Sid Sports Sunday, and we've been doing a lot of hockey the last couple of weeks, obviously. Football we put to bed. So we've got NBA, we've got spring training baseball, we've got college basketball. And you guys know I'm a diehard hockey fan. In fact, just Wednesday night this week, I was downstairs at Madison Square Garden taking a big-time Ranger game against the best team inside the Eastern Conference, the Tampa Bay Lightning. When I've talked hockey over the years, many, many years, down to Miami, back to New York, the one guy I love talking to, the guy I think is the best hockey analyst in the world for many, many years, is ESPN's Barry Melrose. And here he is on Sid Sports Sunday. Good morning, Barry.
Thank you for the kind introduction. That was awesome.
Well, it's all true. And, funny, I'm going back almost 2 decades ago, Barry, when I was working at WFAN, strictly sports. Now, of course, I host mornings here at WABC. I do politics and news and a whole bunch of things. But I had the fortunate opportunity for 3 consecutive years to coach the Christopher Reeve Foundation Celebrity Hockey Game. And they gave me all kinds of big names. One year, you may remember, Barry, they actually gave me Mark Messier and Theo Fleury. They actually flew onto the ice and played. But you were one of my best players. You scored a huge goal for me.
Yeah, people forget how good a player I was. That's the problem. That was a lot of fun. We were just talking about that. Rick Moranis got a goal or 2 goals in that game.
That's right.
Fellow Canadian. Everyone knows Rick Moranis I know him from Second City, but he did a lot of stuff in the United States also. Great guy. And those Christopher Reeves games were fantastic. They did a great job, and it was great to help the charity. It was such a great charity, the Christopher Reeves charity. So you're right, it was a great time, no doubt about it.
It was, and he was such a great man. His wife,
yes,
too. Kim Alexis scored a goal for me one year. Of course, the ex-wife of Ron Duguay. And, I spoke to Duguay this week. I couldn't understand why he's not in the rafters. I get it. Mike Richter and Mark Messier and, Hatfield and Gilbert and Rattel. I get it. Duguay, I think, had 140-goal season. But when I hearken back to those Ranger teams that were really, really good, but not good enough, Barry, to beat the Islanders, he really was the go-to guy offensively for many of those seasons. Do you think it's insane to even consider putting number 10 in the rafters, Ron Duguay, for the Rangers?
I don't think so. I think the rafters are not a Hall of Fame saying. I don't think you have to be an unbelievable player to go into the rafters of a team. I think if you're talking about Dukes, he's one of the most popular players, the most not known players. When you think of those teams, you think of Duke. You think of other guys, but you think of Dukes, the long hair flowing in the wind. He was a good player. He played during the toughest era of the NHL without a helmet on. Battling against Philadelphia, battling against the Islanders. So, and if you use the rafters as a place where great players on your team go, I think Duke should be talked about in that way. Because if you look at over the years, people from New York, you'll say, who was a member of the Rangers team in the 70s? They'll mention Ron Duguay ahead of a lot of other guys. So I don't think that's crazy to think of Duke's going up in the rafters.
I agree with you. So I'm at the Ranger game last Wednesday night. It's funny watching Tampa Bay, Barry. That's basically the Rangers South. J.T. Miller, Callahan. They got McDonough. They got 5 guys on that Tampa Bay team that were former Rangers, and they're all playing very well for the best team inside the Eastern Conference. The Rangers that night came back from a 2-0 deficit, 3-3 tie. They lose in overtime. Zibanejad scores his club-leading 27th goal. VC gets a goal. I see some good young players for the Rangers. They're not there yet, but don't you think at some point, Barry, they got to add some veteran talent to this Ranger team if they're going to get to the next level, which is Stanley Cup playoffs?
Yeah, they have to spend money. They have to get lucky in the draft, find a couple guys in the late rounds like Tampa Bay has. They got Kucherov was not a first round pick. Point was not a first round pick. Point was like 90th pick or something like that. So you have to find players late, but you can't make mistakes with your early drafts, your first round picks. You got to get players. And you got to spend some money in free agency. And the Rangers have always done that. They've changed their philosophy of late to build through the draft, but they still have to go out. And the thing is, players still want to play in New York. They want to play for the Rangers. It's still an original 6 team. So hopefully they'll be able to attract some free. And there's going to be a lot of them. Panarin's going to be available. Skinner's going to be available. There's going to be a lot of guys out there that Duchesne's going to be available. So the Rangers, if they spend their money wisely, draft wisely, get lucky on a few late picks, they can rebuild very, very quickly.
Barry Melrose, the great Barry Melrose, ESPN. Were you surprised the deadline passed and the Rangers held on to their second leading goal scorer, Chris Kreider?
No, I'm not surprised because the Rangers have to keep somebody. You just can't make wholesale changes. Kreider's playing the best hockey of his life. He's going to score over 20 goals this year. Every night you watch Kreider play, he has a couple breakaways. He's still one of the fastest guys in the NHL. So you got a guy that can fly, who's 6'4", who's got a pretty good touch around the net, who's a perennial 20 to 30 goal scorer. You got to keep those guys. You can't get rid of them all. and Kreider sort of becoming Mr. Ranger. So I like the fact they kept Kreider.
Now, the big team, of course, here in New York is in Brooklyn. They're the Islanders. They have shocked everybody. First place right now inside the Metropolitan Division. One of the better teams inside the Eastern Conference. Once you get past Tampa Bay and Boston, maybe, they're right there with the rest of these teams, having an amazing season, getting great goaltending, Barry. And somebody asked me a couple of days ago, they said, and I knew this story, but most listeners don't know this, Barry Trotz wins the Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals last year. Why would he leave? How does Barry Trotz end up being the terrific coach of the Brooklyn Islanders?
Well, they didn't offer him a contract. They made him, he finished first all those years. They underachieved in the playoffs. I'll be the first to admit that. But last year, Trotz pressed all the buttons, and they won the Stanley Cup. But I think what happened is there were some things said, some things done, and I think Trotzy felt it was time for him to move on because Washington did offer him a contract later, but it wasn't nearly to be one of the top paid coaches in the NHL. So I think Trotz realized that maybe they wanted a change. It was an easy way out, and he left, went to the Islanders with Lou Lamoriello, and they're doing a great job. So I think it was time for him to leave Washington. He'd been there a long time, and now he's went to the Islanders and got them playing great. They're the best defensive team in the NHL, but they got a lot of their best players free agents next year too. Lee is a free agent, Nielsen's a free agent, so they got some guys that they have to sign also. But Barry Trotz has done a fantastic job, with no doubt about it, with the Islanders.
Barry, you look at the four major sports, and there's some guys. I'm talking about front office guys, not coaches. Pat Riley was a great coach. He's been an amazing front office guy with the Miami Heat. A guy like Sabian in San Francisco found a way over a decade to win 3 championships with the San Francisco Giants. Theo Epstein as well. There are guys that are very good at what they do. But if I said to you, Barry Melrose, that of all the 4 major sports, the best front office guy I've seen in decades, based upon his success in New Jersey with the Devils, and what he's doing year 1 in Brooklyn with the Islanders, is Lou Lamoriello. Would that be a crazy statement?
No, I agree with you. I think Lou's a genius. I think he's in his 70s now. He's been a successful coach, general manager in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, 2000s. His teams are always among the top. He drafts very, very well. He did it on teams that didn't always spend to the cap, and they won Stanley Cups and went to the final. So without a doubt, I think you got to think Lou Lamoriello is the best hockey man the NHL has seen for many, many a decade.
You mentioned Kucherov earlier having an unbelievable season, 100 points and a 102-point team already in Tampa Bay. Is he right now your leader in the clubhouse for the Hart Trophy? Maybe Connor McDavid. Who do you got right now as the NHL MVP? We're 3/4 of the way done, Barry.
I have Kucherov as the best player in the NHL. I think Kane is having an unbelievable year. But I don't think you can give the MVP to a player on a team that misses the playoffs.
Right.
Kane makes the playoffs with Chicago. I think he's in the mix. But to me, right now, Kucherov is the best player in the NHL. Every night, he gets a goal, he gets an assist, he gets 5 points, he gets 4 points. And he's the best player on the best team. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Mark Stone, right now, you're a Selke Trophy winner for the best defensive forward in the NHL?
You know what? I give that trophy to Bergeron every year. I think Bergeron is the best all-around player in the NHL. You look at his offensive numbers, you look at his defensive numbers. That Boston team, he plays against the other team's best players. He's always a plus player. So I think Bergeron would be my pick for the Selke. There's a lot of players. Taves is having a good year. He's won the Selke before. There are a lot of guys that play that role, but to me, Bergeron's the best.
I grew up in New York, of course, and I'm back in New York, Barry, after those years in Miami. And I always tell people, as a Giant fan, I hated the Jets. As a Met fan, I hated the Yankees. But the one team I hated the most as a Ranger fan was the Islanders. I would get into fistfights back in elementary school, at Poly Prep in high school, Barry. Fistfights. Back then, the Islanders were winning Stanley Cups, and my Rangers were good enough to be second. And I never forgot that feeling. Yet, because I'm in the business now, I get to know these guys, I got to put some of that hatred aside. So when you talk Vezina, even though lots of people think the goalie in Tampa Bay is having a pretty good year, he should be that guy, I got to tell you, I think Robin Lehner, Brooklyn Islanders, that's the Vezina winner right there. What do you think?
I got to disagree with you, Sid. I think it's Vasilevsky. I think Vasilevsky's the best goalie in the NHL. You can say he's on the best team, and that's true, but I probably remember 4 games this year where he stopped 45 to 50 shots, totally outplayed, and the Tampa Bay Lightning won that game, scoring a late goal. So Vasilevsky, I think, is the best goalie. I think Henrik's had a great year. You mentioned Leonard. He's rejuvenated with the Island. You got to thank Barry Trotz and that defensive system he's put into place. But to me, Vasilevsky's been the best goalie.
You give Trotz then the Adams Award as the best coach?
I would, if they continue. And he took a team that most people didn't think was going to make the playoffs with all the turmoil, the losing Tavares, all the stuff that they went through, and he's got them among the league leaders. I got to think Barry Trotz would be my first pick as coach of the year. I think he's done an unbelievable job.
All right, 2 more we'll let you run. The great Barry Melrose, ESPN. Trade deadline last week. Let's talk about, in your opinion, the teams that got better. I mean, I think obviously Columbus, Winnipeg, those are the obvious ones. Who am I missing here, Barry? Who got a lot better at the trade deadline?
Vegas. Vegas got Stone, and Stone was the best player available. And that includes Duchesne, and that includes the guys that went earlier. This kid, he's got 28 goals now. He's going to be a perennial, 40-goal scorer in the NHL with the Vegas team, with the amount of talent they have. And then you got Vegas, who this summer got Stasny and got Pacioretty, and now they got Stone. So you add those 3 guys to a team that went to Stanley Cup Finals last year. That's pretty amazing. So I think Vegas really helped themselves. I expect Vegas to become a better team as Stone gets acclimated to their system. And I think that'll be one of the favorites to come out of the West again.
All right, so last one then. A team like the Islanders, for example, they're right there having a big year, but pretty inactive. Lou didn't do much here during the trade deadline. Didn't do anything, in fact. So one of the teams that you think blew an opportunity, maybe even got worse, but certainly did not get better as they make a playoff push?
I think I'd like to have seen Boston do more. I think they're one of the teams that could upset Tampa Bay. I think Calgary could have done something there. A very good team. I thought they might be more aggressive at the deadline. And it's not saying that these teams didn't try and be aggressive. It's just a case that maybe the price was too high or whatever. They didn't have the cap space to bring players in, things like that. But probably Calgary. San Jose went out and got Nyquist. That'll help them. He's a 20-goal scorer. They're a very good team. Winnipeg got some help. Simmons went there.
Yep.
Or Nashville got Simmons. That'll help them. So I think that probably when I look now, I think Calgary. I think they're one of the best teams in the West, and they didn't help themselves. I think they tried, but I don't think they could get a deal done.
Yeah, no, right now they're the top seed in the West. You're right. They're one of the best teams, and they did not do much. Anyway, it's been a great hockey season. We're about 3/4 of the way done, and for a guy, Barry, you're the same way. I know you're the hockey guy, but people that don't know you love every sport, and you're great at every sport. So do I, but there's nothing like Stanley Cup playoffs, and that is right around the corner. So thank you for hopping on today. You're always an amazing guest. Love talking hockey with you. You're the man, Barry. Thank you so much.
Anytime, Sid. Give me a call again if you want to talk hockey.
I would love to. The great Barry Melrose on ESPN. And if you're a hockey fan like me, nobody better, ever. We'll take a short break. More of Sid Sports Sunday here on 77 WABC right after these short messages.
So his initial decision to go to the broadcast booth was a tough one for him. So it was not surprising at all when he came in and he said, I want to play. I want to be, quote, back in the dirt. I don't think I've ever met a player that really wants to do the hard physical thing, not take the easy way out that makes a football player. That's what he's about, and that's what he misses the most.
There he is, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, talking about his former tight end Jason Witten. Witten spent 15 years between 03 and 17 with the Dallas Cowboys. Distinguished himself as one of the greatest tight ends ever. Over 1,100 catches, over 12,000 yards, 69 touchdowns. He decided to retire last year at this time, and he spent the last season alongside, who's in that booth, I guess, I forget the guy's name. How do you say that guy's name who does Monday Night Football? versus Gazian or something like that, and Booger McFarland. And he did the last year Monday Night Football. Now he's decided to come out of retirement and go back and play once again for Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk to Jake Kemp. He's live in Dallas. He works on the Cowboy pre- and post-game show about that decision and the future of Dallas. Do want to send a shout-out to a friend of mine listening every single day in Australia. You know, right now in Australia, it's about, if my math is correct, about 7 o'clock at night. Buddy Sammy out in Australia listens to Bernie and Sid and this show every day, and that is very, very far away. Gunselman, do you realize that? You realize that's far away?
It's not close.
Not close, but the weather is gorgeous, and they have kangaroos and
the women are something else, my man.
Right. So Sammy's listening right now in Australia, and we thank you for that. So before we get to Jake Kemp and talk some Dallas Cowboy Jason Witten football, let me give away these tickets quickly. Pirates men's basketball at the Rock. Seton Hall, very tough loss yesterday. Lost in double overtime to Patrick Ewing and Georgetown, which hurts their chances. They're one of those kind of bubble teams coming out of the Big East. They've got a huge game coming up, taking on Villanova on March the 9th at 12 p.m. at the gorgeous Prudential Center. Prudential Center's luxury suites are uniquely tailored to you and your guests, desired experience. The Infinity Luxury Suites offer a private setting from which to enjoy the very best in live sports and entertainment. You'll have exceptional sightlines and spacious in-suite lounge areas that provide the perfect setting to entertain family, friends, clients, or employees. 77 WABC has your chance to win a pair of tickets in a suite for the game, but we're giving away tickets right here, right now on Sid Sports Sunday. Be calling number 9 to Mike Gunzelman. Call us at 1-212-268-WABC. That's 212-268-9222. And we'll give you a pair to the number one team in the Big East, Villanova, taking on the Seton Hall Pirates as they try to get in. That game, once again, is coming up March 9th. You can buy tickets as well on the website, WABCRadio.com. So, next hour, Danny B will be here, as he always is. Danny B, Sid Sports Sunday. Saturday nights here on this station, Inside the Numbers, dbwins.com. He's on a 24-week winning streak. We got college basketball today, NBA, NHL, even that stupid football league that people bet on, the AAFC. We'll talk to Danny. Also next hour, the man that created ProFootballTalk.com. He's now a star, 4-hour morning show with Chris Sims every morning on NBC's cable network, as well as the website. And that is Mike Florio. He'll be here next hour. And also next hour, the number one afternoon sports talk host in Philadelphia, their ESPN station, Mike Missinelli, talking about the Bryce Harper arrival with the Phillies and what that means for our New York Mets. But first, let's go down to Dallas. That's where Jake Kemp is standing by. Good morning, Jake.
Thank you for having me on. It's quite a murderer's row of guests there. I feel honored to be a part of this.
Well, you should be. Maybe you don't know who I am, but I'm a monster superstar, and I'm out of New York City. That's all you need to know.
Well, I know now.
Okay. Well, usually we have your partner. What's that guy's name? Donovan Lewis. That's right, but he's busy today. So we go to you. Now, you do the pre and the post for the Dallas Cowboys?
Yes, sir, with Donovan.
Excellent. All right, let's get to it. I know last year the head coach, Garrett, talked about how much he missed Jason Witten, as Witten was doing the Monday Night Football games on WABC around the country. So you kind of heard even last year during the season that Dallas really wanted Jason Witten back. What went into the decision for both Jason and the Cowboys, Jake, to get this thing done?
Well, first of all, the guy you were looking the name for was Joe Tessitore, and I think we could all probably agree Witten was not good in the booth last year.
Not very good, no.
He was hired off the strength of Romo.
By the way, they all weren't very good. I mean, Tessa, he's okay, and Booger McFarland is terrible. So, I mean, not that you have to – I know you're not going to get out Howard Cosell again overnight, but my God, could they got a couple of decent guys?
Yeah, and look, like I said, Romo's the anomaly. Very rarely can a player just walk right into the media, right into the booth, and be as good or at least as energizing as Romo was. Witten was awful. That booth was awful. And I think on his end of the decision, it had to at least partially be that he knew it wasn't going well. And he was facing criticism really probably for the first time, maybe ever, because in his tenure in Dallas, he was unassailable. You know, Romo actually got most of the blame during that tenure, and probably rightfully so. He's the quarterback. But nobody had a bad word to say about Witten ever. And then, you know, all of a sudden he's catching a lot of heat in the booth on the Cowboys side of things. You know, I think it pretty much is just that Witten can write whatever check he wants to himself because if you look at the numbers, their tight end production last year was exactly the same as it was in 2017. I think Witten still has the ability to be a league average, slightly a league average above tight end, but they've got guys who can kind of do that. And from my point of view, initially I was very excited just because I like, it's a chance to see Witten playing again. But aside from the jokes about whether or not his hair will be coming back to the field with him, his new hair, I've been told by the draft nicks that this is a very tight end rich draft. Cowboys are sitting there at 58, and I'd kind of started to get excited about one of these 3 or 4, first or second round tight ends and start that process. I worry that if you bring Witten back in, you're essentially stunting the growth of the guys you already have, and you're not taking another one.
No, I mean, I guess that's fair, but who cares about stunting the growth of guys you already have when you bring back a guy who's going to go to the Hall of Fame? And by the way, last I checked, even 2 years ago in his last season, guy had a pretty good year, caught 63 passes and 6 or 7 touchdowns. So I just think he makes Dak Prescott better, and that's all you want as a Cowboy fan right now is for your quarterback to improve. I know Jerry Jones came out and said he's the guy. We would draft him all over again, and he did get a playoff win this year. But what do you think about the future with Dak Prescott?
Well, I think first of all, I love the guy. He's a winner. I know that's cliche, but he's got the intangibles all day long. I think the room is absolutely bought into him. I do sometimes worry whether or not he's ultimately a guy whose ceiling can be to win a title with his arm. And they've already made that decision, so it doesn't really matter what I think. I guess what matters now is the number, right? Are they going to make him the highest paid player in the league? And I don't think that's a crazy proposition at all. I mean, he's going to be the Dallas Cowboys quarterback with a pretty gaudy winning record. And I think it probably starts at $30 million a year. And I think he's going to want most, if not all of that guaranteed. So, look, I love the guy. I sometimes worry that whenever they don't have a prime Zeke Elliott, they don't have a top 5 offensive line, what is he going to look like then? And I guess that's a decision for another day. But just as they start to construct the roster around him, as you mentioned, it's all about him. Whether it's the Witten decision, whether it's the trade for Amari Cooper, whatever they do in the draft, it is about how to win with Dak. And, I think at this point, you have to at least ask the question whether or not, even though he's their best player, if they need to bring Elliott back for a long-term deal.
Right.
Because that money starts to add up real quick when you're talking about 2 top of their position players who are in their primes.
Talking to Jay Kemp, I should say, KTC Key in Dallas. He does the pre and post. Go back to the head coach for a second, Jason Garrett. So many folks around Dallas, former Cowboy players, Jake, as you know, veterans, Hall of Famers like T.O. don't like him. When I say don't like him, it's not personal. They just don't think he's the right guy for the job. And again, this year, after the playoff loss, he got blasted all over Dallas. Why do you think Jerry Jones remains so loyal to Jason Garrett?
Well, I mean, the first thing is that the Cowboys, as you said, it is the positive side you could call it loyal. On the negative side, you could say it's wrong with the mafia. I mean, they keep their people close, and I think Jerry doesn't want to start over is a huge part of it. I mean, he's already got the trust of Garrett. He believes in Garrett. He doesn't want to have to start over. At this point, it's kind of a sunk cost thing. I mean, they're a decade down the road with Jason Garrett, and if you add in his tenure as OC, even longer. And a guy on our station actually did some research earlier this year, and I believe of the Big Four, over the last 30 years, so we're talking hundreds and hundreds of seasons, there's like 5 or 6 title teams that were not coached by guys in their first 3 years with that team. So not necessarily your first 3 years as a head coach, but your first 3 years with that team winning your first one. The odds are incredibly against Jason Garrett ever being a Super Bowl winning coach. Yeah. The problem is that barring Romo's collarbone snapping, he's never bad enough to really push Jerry to firing him.
Right.
They don't string together these 3, 4, 5 win seasons over and over. I mean, the guys, I believe since he took over as head coach, he's got the 10th most regular season win.
No, that's a great point.
The playoff success isn't there, but, he does get it done in the regular season to a degree.
No, you're exactly right. And they've had no playoff success even before him. Bill Parcells, you got to go all the way back, I guess, to Jimmy and Landry. Last one, shift gears. I got a minute left here, Jake. Terrific job. Big trade in New York a couple of weeks ago. The Knicks sent away what people thought was the future of the organization, Kristaps Porzingis. to your city, to Dallas, with the Mavericks. I watched some of that Maverick game last night. They got pounded as a home favorite by the Memphis Grizzlies, and it didn't matter what the kid Luke did. What about the future of Porzingis in Dallas? Is there a lot of excitement when he gets back from injury, what Mark Cuban may have with that basketball team?
Well, I don't think there could be any more excitement than there already is over Luka. I mean, it's Luka mania. It's all about Luka. He's on par with the Cowboys locally right now. So
wow.
If Porzingis' knees come back right and he's able to play, which I do think there is a real question about a 7'3" guy who's had a number of injuries, so much so that, he wasn't on the floor for a year. There's certainly concern, but if he comes back healthy, the Mavericks also have a ton of cap space this summer. That's two pretty attractive players to maybe wrangle a third guy to come play with them. I don't think there's any reason why they can't threaten for the top half of the West as early as next year.
Yeah, I agree with you. By the way, that is an excellent job here. Jake Kemp is the name, KTCK in Dallas, does all the Cowboys stuff, and obviously knows his basketball too. Thank you. That's an A+. Hopefully you'll come back again real soon, Jake. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Love to be back.
All right, thank you. I love you too. That's a bit much, I think, for our first interview, don't you? Love to be back, love. Or maybe not. I'm a lovable guy. So that'll do it for hour number 1. That was a terrific hour. Hour number 2, Danny B. He'll be making his picks. Mike Florio, Mr. ProFootballTalk.com on the Jets, Giants, the Combine, and all the franchise tagging going around. Will Landon Collins be one of those guys? I'm also going to do some baseball. Go to Philadelphia with Mike Missinelli, where Bryce Harper is set to make his Philadelphia Philly debut in spring training, I think around Thursday of this week. Hour number 2 of Sid Sports Sunday coming right at you.
This is Sid Sports Sunday, driven by Ramsey Mazda. Around the country, around New York, the stories you're talking about, the stats you need.
There's the pass to Leitner. Puts it up. Finds Christian Leitner with a 50-foot pass, and he puts it in from 15 for the game winner.
These are the moments you won't forget.
5-5 in a delirious 10th inning. Can you believe this ball game at Shea? Oh, brother. 3-2 to Mookie Wilson. Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
This is Sid Sports Sunday, driven by Ramsey Mazda on 77 WABC. Now, Sid Rosenberg.
And we are back, folks. Welcome back, Sid Sports Sunday, hour number 2. Fun hour number 1. What a big hour we've got coming up for you. I've reestablished my friendship with a guy that has really become Mr. Football. He had a little website when I first started inviting him on my radio show down in Miami over a decade ago. Now he's exploded. The website is the biggest football site in the country. It's got a 4-hour radio TV show every single day on NBC Sports cable channel alongside my good buddy Chris Sims. And he's also on NBC on Sunday nights, Pro Football Night in America. Mike Florio makes his return to the Sid Rosenberg Show later on this hour. That is a biggie. Also this hour, the number 1 sports talk host in Philadelphia. You know, I love Tony Bruno. I love Howard Eskin, Harry Mays, all those guys. But even though I don't like this guy blocked me on Twitter years ago. I think he's a pussy, a liberal pussy. But he's coming on today. He's the number 1 sports talk show host in Philadelphia. His name is Mike Missinelli. And he's coming on because Bryce Harper just signed a $330 million contract this week with the Phillies, and I need a Philly guy. And this guy said yes. This guy blocked me on Twitter, and he says yes. That's how desperately he wants to be on in New York City with me. I can't blame him, but what are you upset, Mike? What do you think he's going to do, cancel? He cut his ball off to be on this show in New York City. He ain't going to do nothing. And I'll say right to him, you're not going to want to miss the introduction, trust me. Nobody does a better radio introduction than me. Nobody. Not Francesa, not Hannity, not Limbaugh, not Imus, not Stern. Nobody. Wait till you hear this one. What time's this guy coming on? In 15 minutes, okay. When I ask you questions, by the way, you have to say it in the mic. No, not now. You've already answered the question, dumbass, Gunzy. But when I ask you a question, don't say it in my ear, say it in the mic. You're allowed to come on the air. On this show. I know that usually program directors, Schwab, Chair, they hate the producers, don't want you guys on the air, but thank God I'm surrounded by people like you and Jill. You're talented. You're funny. So
damn right.
Yeah, calm down. So he's coming up in 15 minutes, and we'll get to Curtis Sliwa and Danny B. You know, I did this long shout-out to my friend Sammy in Australia. It was a long one. Because I don't have that many friends in Australia. I don't know about you, but after Olivia Newton-John and the guy and Russell Crowe, I'm about done. I do this, and then listening on the app, and then the app took a dump and went out, gone. Took like 10 minutes to get the thing back on again, and now I have to do another shutout. So, shout out to Sammy in Australia. We love you. We're glad you're listening. We're so big on Sid Sports Sunday. Forget about Brooklyn or Staten Island or Manhattan. They love us in Sydney. Sydney in Sydney. You like that? It's spelled differently, of course, but Sydney in Sydney. I love it. So Friday, I went on this big business call. I continue to bring in millions of dollars to this station, whether it's the Bernie and Sid in the morning show or this show, with my great sales guy, Jimmy in Corvea, and Danny Bianculo. Some website that's going to sign on for all three shows, actually. This show, my morning show, and Danny's show, Inside the Numbers, which is a great show, 6 to 7 every Saturday night on this station. Danny's been coming on now since week 1 of the football season. He's the best handicapper in the country, evidenced by the fact that he's had 24 consecutive winning weeks on this show. I'm not exaggerating. His website is dbwins.com. He'll have an 800 number for you as well, and it doesn't matter what the sport is, he's great. So with that said, Brucey, give me some of this.
This segment is sponsored by dbwins.com.
Here he is, red hot, whether it's college basketball, NBA, NHL, NFL, the upcoming Major League Baseball season. Heck, he had John Jones winning UFC last night. My dear friend Danny Bianculo. Good morning, Danny B.
Good morning, Sid. Now, listening to you earlier, I was going to offer you a Snicker bar. You seemed angry there. You're yelling at guns back there.
Which part was this? I don't remember.
Just a couple of seconds ago.
Well, because when I asked him to answer a question, when he says it in my ear, but you can't hear it.
Yeah, I know. You know that commercial with the Snicker bar? It's like it calms you down. But anyway.
No, I actually think about the commercial. You know what calms me down? When I was much younger, of course, and much more handsome. Mean Joe Green giving the kid a soda. That's
absolutely.
Like me and Gunzelman. I buy the kid a bacon, egg, and cheese on it because he has no money. They don't pay him here. Every Sunday morning on the way up, it's like, I'm starving. Can you buy me? My son asked for food less than Mike Gunzelman. Anyway.
I love the banter. You guys are great. I mean, the whole show is great. I love the way you take jabs at people, and I love the way you keep it real, Sid.
Thank you. I love you, too. And your show, I heard it last night, was terrific. I like the piece your beautiful wife, Jamie, put on Twitter last night. You talking about me and Tim Donaghy and all that good stuff. I do want to ask you one question.
Sure.
There was a football league that was formed just for gambling. That's it. You may remember the Super Bowl, Patriots and Rams. CBS was promoting the new league, the American Alliance, which was starting the week after the Super Bowl on CBS. I have not watched one play, although I came across it last night by accident on some Fox channel. But supposedly people are watching it, and the league was formed just to gamble. Are you up to the point yet you're making picks on the AAFC?
No, I won't go there. I'm going to keep it real. That's out of my territory there. People are engaged in it, just like they are betting preseason. I think it's just not my cup of coffee. That's it.
You mean preseason football?
Baseball. Did you hear the baseball league? They're asking the casinos not to take preseason action. Did you read up on that?
I did not. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I have a website, and I was shocked when I saw that every single exhibition game today, for example, the Phillies are minus 130 against the Astros. I have no idea who's pitching. Whether the managers have no idea who's pitching. How do you make a favorite in a spring training? Now, I understand as we get closer to opening day in 3 weeks, Danny, why you would do that. But you still got guys playing today. They're going to be working at the car wash in Teaneck in 3 weeks.
I've dabbled with preseason NFL action, but never baseball. It's just there's nothing to go on. I mean, like you just said, the managers don't know who's pitching. I'll wait for opening day. I'll go with the Mets on opening day like I've done for the last 10 or 12 years. They're good on opening day.
Well, I believe opening day you're going to get DeGrom against Scherzer. How's that for a matchup?
You know what? We got the guy. We got the Cy Young, and I'm looking forward to the Mets this year. Yankees is stacked. This Harper in Philadelphia, he should tear that park apart. He should. Out of the three big signings or the extension with Nolan, I think Harper's going to perform better than the other two.
No, listen, Machado, of course, got his first round of action yesterday in San Diego. Look for Harper to get going about Thursday or Friday, but the Phillies have added a bunch of guys, re-signed the best pitcher. You mentioned them, Nola, over 17-win season, brought in the former Yankee, David Robertson, to help with that bullpen. They're going to be real good. Let's get to the NBA today, Danny. You've been red hot on this show with both NBA and college basketball picks after a great football season. There are 8 games today. That's a lot. So for the gamblers out there, for those degenerates, big day today. You got a very important game, actually, on ABC at 3:30. I think Mike Breen even has it. Jimmy Harden and the Rockets taking on Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics. Knickerbockers in action today against the Clippers. 8 games on the schedule. Anything that piques your interest?
Well, again, like I've said in the past, I'm going to let Tim do the picking for the NBA.
Tim Donaghy you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. He called the winner last night. He had Philadelphia covering the number on air against Golden State.
They should have won that game. Their inexperience down the stretch cost them the game, but you're right. That was a good underdog call.
Yeah, he called that. Today, I'm looking at the early game. St. John's coming off of a loss, 20-9. They don't play great on the road. I'd have to be careful. The Johnny should be careful today. This is a tough spot for them, so I'm going to pass that one.
They are laying a point and a half at DePaul. They should beat DePaul, but you're right.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. Is he playing? Is he not playing? Their stud, Haran, he's still questionable. So I'm going to go right to the 3 o'clock game. Marquette coming off of a loss. They're great at home, 16-1, laying 7.5, playing Creighton. Creighton's bad on the road. So I'm going to roll with Marquette.
Ooh.
Marquette -7 coming off of a loss, and again 16-1 at home. 3:45. We got the Big Ten action. Michigan, Maryland. This is a tough game. I'm going to go with the over in this one, Sid. Over 129, over 130.
Really?
Yeah, I see some points in this one. It's a tough spot for, but it's a big game. It's an important game.
Yes, especially if both of those teams are going to the dance. But Michigan lost at home to Michigan State, who lost to Indiana yesterday, and now they're a small favorite on the road at Maryland. That may be asking a bit much of the Wolverines, so I think you may be right with the over.
Yeah, I'm going with the over. It opened up at 129. It's up to 130, so jump on that. I see it closing about 132. Then my best play, I guess, I do like Marquette a lot, but I like Oregon State tonight, minus the 3.5, playing Arizona State. Another good game, Washington at Stanford. This is another tricky spot for Washington. But again, my official plays will be Marquette minus the 7. I like the over in Michigan-Maryland game, and tonight, Oregon State laying 3.5. The numbers are going to change, of course.
I like Washington, too, though. They're the only really good team in the Pac-12. Yeah. You're only laying a bucket on the road at Stanford, so kind of like the Huskies as well. You know, what I want to do next week, Danny, as we get closer and closer, opening day is 3 weeks from Thursday, so next week will be about 2 weeks away, opening day, Major League Baseball. We should do 5 to 7, maybe even 7, go with 7 Major League Baseball over-unders from Danny B before the start of the year. How about that?
That's fantastic. That's my thing. And you got to be careful. Washington, I mean, Stanford, not a great team, but they play good at home. They're 10-2 at home.
Yeah.
But again, that whole Pac-12 banged up, Washington the best team by far. But Oregon State tonight, I like what I see in them. They're not a great team, but I like the number. But again, it's been fun, Sid. You know, this M Drive, though. By the way, it really does work. I wasn't BSing last night. I feel stronger. I've tried them all.
Yeah.
But this stuff actually works.
I felt like a drug dealer on Friday. I go to Jersey City for a client meeting with Danny B and James. I got a bottle of M Drive in my purse there. Felt like back in Brooklyn and Bensonhurst. Anyway, so for folks who want to get the NBA, college basketball, the upcoming baseball season, big hockey games today. The Rangers will host the Capitals in about 2 hours. The Islanders in Brooklyn will host the Flyers in about 5 hours. Give them the phone number, the website, all the important information.
Sure. Go to dbwins.com, dbwins.com. I have a 10-day trial offer, includes all sports. Tim will provide the NBA. I'll host the basketball, college basketball, and baseball. The number is 1-800-308-9003. Again, 1-800-308-9003. 10-day trial offer, Sid. Again, I can't say it enough. You've been great. I look forward to next season. I look forward to baseball. It's just been fun.
It has been great. You're great. Your show Inside the Numbers is great. You're great here. We love you. Best to Jamie and the boys. Enjoy your Sunday, Danny. We'll talk in a couple of days.
Back at you, my friend.
All right, my great friend Danny Bianculo. Check him out today. The website is dbwins.com. Bryce Harper signed the big deal, 13 years, $330 million. Philadelphia Phillies, he's in camp today. They expect him to start Thursday or Friday spring training games. Either way, that is not great news for diehard New York Met fans like myself. We go to the number one voice in Philadelphia, ESPN Afternoon host Mike Missinelli, talking about Bryce Harper and the Philadelphia Phillies here on Sid Sports Sunday, only on 77 WABC. You know what's funny? We played that promo for Bernie and Sid in the morning. So let me give you an update before we talk to Mike Missinelli out of Philadelphia about this Bryce Harper deal. So on Friday night, I take my beautiful wife, Danielle, and we go to Caroline's Comedy Club to see Kevin Nealon, the big star from Saturday Night Live and CBS. And he's got that show on YouTube, Hiking with Kevin, takes David Spade, all these famous people hiking. And he sits down with me and Bernie on Thursday, loves it. He flat out says, next to Howard Stern, you're my favorite talk show host. So I show up at Caroline's on Friday. Based upon that, I'm going to see Jeff Garland in a couple of weeks. He's the dad on the Goldbergs, and he'll be on with me and Bernie, too. So they give me a seat. You can't make this up, Guns. I sit right by Kevin, center, middle row, and the guys that own the club, they're like, we love you, Sid, whatever you want. Drinks, food. I didn't pay for a thing. And the whole skit, we'll get to Mike in a second, the whole bit with Bernie was that Nealon better say something during the show, like, oh, there's Sid Rosenberg.
Got to shout you out, yeah.
That's my guy, him and Stern. Mother Effer does like an hour and a half, doesn't say a goddamn word about me. Not a word. Nothing. Nothing. In fact, he goes, hey, who's married out there? So I raised my hand, 27 years with Danielle. Two fat people out of Orlando sitting next to me, white trash with a capital T. He goes, oh, you guys, how long you married? I'm like, Kevin, I'm sitting right here in front of you, douche face. Nothing. So, Kevin Nealon's dead to me.
Just when you think you know somebody, right?
Until he invites me to go on the YouTube show, Hiking with Kevin. But anyway, we'll have Jeff Garland and Jim Norton on the Bernie and Sid show the next couple of weeks. So the big deal this week, Bryce Harper, 13 years, $330 million off the heels of the Manny Machado signing in San Diego. So I wanted to go to Philadelphia and get the pulse there. And Mike Missinelli, he's number one. The guy's on ESPN Afternoons. He's been kicking ass there for many, many years. Never met Mike. Never spoke to Mike. He did block me on Twitter. Don't like his politics, but can't argue his sports stardom. And he's on the show today, which is great. So here he is, Mike Missinelli. Mike, welcome to Sid Sports Sunday. How are you, pal?
First of all, I'm bigger than Kevin Nealon. Second of all, what do you know about my politics?
Oh, God, you're the biggest liberal pussy I've ever. And you blocked me on Twitter a couple of years ago. Yes, you did.
Block you on Twitter?
Mike Miss 975 blocked me because I called you out because you were bashing Trump. Oh, I don't know. You were doing something, and it just.
Really? You were bashing? I was bashing Trump.
You were doing something that annoyed me. Are you a big Trump guy? I don't think so.
No, not really.
Right?
I'm kind of independent rather than.
No. You ask Tony Bruno and Harry Mays how independent you are. But here's the thing, Mike.
Tony Bruno has no credibility at all.
I knew you would say that.
Harry's all right.
I knew you would say that. He's on 97.5, The Fanatic in Philly. No, we've had a very contentious relationship, you and I.
We have?
Yes. Don't act like
really?
Don't act like you don't know. Stop.
I'm really not. God, if I block you because you got out of line.
No, sweetheart. You got out of line.
No. I only block people to get out of line.
Well, whatever it was, it's your fault. You're on my show now, so just take it.
All right.
When I come on your show, you can blame me. But no, I'm happy. I know you're killing it there. You own afternoons. You're the go-to guy, so I'm happy for your success. And I'm really happy you're on the show today, Michael, so thank you.
Thanks, Sid. I appreciate that.
You got it. So let's get right to this. I'm a diehard Met fan. I really thought up to a couple of days ago, if my pitching stays healthy, see, I did say it, Gonzi. If my pitching stays healthy, I had a good a shot as anybody to win the NL East. Bryce signs with you guys. That makes me, a Met fan, very, very nervous and upset. How big is this Bryce Harper signing, Mike, in Philadelphia?
God, it's the biggest free agent signing in the history of Philadelphia sports. Now, there have been other guys that have joined teams, but they were acquisitions. Pete Rose was a big free agent signing, but he was at the kind of in his deep 30s when they got him. Harper is just an amazing get for them, and you know it happened so quickly because we were all thinking here that it was dead, and the same day we were talking and ripping the Phillies for not making it happen. It happened about 5 minutes of 3 on that day. So it's huge. It makes them a contender. It makes them it gives them a chance to go to the World Series.
Yeah, more than a contender. I think now they leap ahead of Atlanta, the Mets, and the Washington as the NL East favorites. And you look inside the National League, Dodgers, Rockies, Cardinals, I don't know who you're talking about. They got to be the favorites right now. They brought back Nola over 17-win season. You got to love Segura, ending him at shortstop. I think a whole year of Andrew McCutchen in left field's a big deal. And you get the former Yankee, David Robertson. I mean, Bryce Harper was the big one. But the Phillies have done a really good job, Mike, as you know, in and around him this whole offseason.
Their lineup from 1 to 8 is pretty damn good. And it reminds me of 2018 that won the World Series, where their starting pitching was just okay. They had Cole Hamels and Jamie Moyer had a great year, but they kind of piecemealed that together with the back end of the bullpen and really good offense. So this is a team, you score 5-6 runs a game, and then with the 3-4-5 starters, which are a little weaker than obviously 1 and 2 with Nola and Arrieta, I think they can kind of tack it together. Hopefully Kapler can't screw this up.
Well, you know, you mentioned Arrieta. I know that he's not that far removed from a Cy Young in Chicago, but he has not been nearly that guy in Philly. Kind of been inconsistent. So you feel great with Arrieta as your 2 and Pivetta as your 3?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No,
right.
The Arrieta's got to show me because he was very average last year. And, you know, he had this meniscus surgery recently, and they say in Florida, I'm going down next week, but they say he looks really good. He's in good shape. And Pivetta, I don't trust at all. I don't trust Velasquez. I don't trust Eflin. I don't trust Eichhoff. They've got 4 guys vying for 2 spots. I would think that Keuchel makes sense to them in a short-term deal for like $15 million, something like that, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So that's what I'm saying. The 3-4-5, they're going to have to bullpen their way through games like that.
Mike Missanelli, the number 1 talk show host in Philadelphia, does a great job every afternoon, 97.5, The Fanatic. Is that Joe Bell's station, or is that the other one?
It is Joe Bell's station.
Now, you know I worked for Joe Bell at WQAM in Miami for many, many years. In fact, not to sound like a dick, but he says to this day, I'm the most talented guy he's ever coached.
Well, there you go. Well, that was before he got up here.
You know, it's true. You're right. No, he's a great guy. We worked together in Miami, and I'm glad he's doing well with you guys at The Fanatic. Hey, tell me this. When you talk about the hierarchy, Mike, of sports in Philadelphia, Phillies are a favorite now. 76ers, tough loss to Golden State last night, but they're a serious threat. Obviously, the Eagles are always tough. Won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Flyers have a big game today against the Islanders here in New York. Where do the Phillies fall in the hierarchy of sports that people care about in Philadelphia?
Well, now they've moved to number 2. I mean, they were way down at 3, and the Flyers are always 4th in this town. But you know, the Eagles own the town. But the Phillies, when baseball is really good, and during that run of the Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley years with Charlie Manuel, they were selling out every game. They had a run of sellouts of like 150 or whatever the heck it was. And so I think you're going to get crowds of 40,000, averaging 40,000 this year. They're going to go over 3 million attendance. They sold a ton of season tickets the day Bryce Harper was signed, and individual game tickets. Everybody's really excited about the Phillies now. We haven't been able to talk about the Phillies for 4 straight summers.
Right. No, I know. So, I think it's to the point now, Mike, where people are going to be paying attention to spring training. I did read or hear today that Harper will probably make his spring training debut on Thursday or Friday, and I think you guys will be waiting that with bated breath, like you can't wait.
We will actually be down there broadcasting on Thursday and Friday, so that worked out perfectly for us. But no, it was a major gap. I mean, I was shocked that it took so long, frankly, because they knew from the jump what Boris wanted. He wanted more money than Giancarlo Stanton. He wanted to sit, and so for the Phillies to be below that number was odd to me. Boris wanted his client to be the highest paid player in baseball.
Yeah.
And for them to take so long to get there, and I really think that the late interest in the Dodgers and Giants pushed the Phillies finally to get to that number.
Agreed. Now, by the way, Stanton got 325 with the Marlins, so Harper is the only guy to get 330. Although, it's funny, Mr. Elias, as we talk about this guy as the man, he's only knocked in 100 runs once, and that was last year, his 7th season in Major League Baseball, and he only knocked in 100. He's had that 140-plus home run season. When you look at his statistics over the 7 years in Washington, it doesn't make a lot of sense that he's the highest paid player ever. He's a fantastic player, magnificent, don't get me wrong. But you look at those numbers, one 100 RBI season, and the guy gets $330 million?
Well, he was an MVP early in his career. But here's the thing. Citizens Bank Park, the stats have to be completely restarted because his slugging percentage in Citizens Bank Park is higher than any player in baseball over 200 players who qualify.
Yep.
It's like 550 or whatever it is. He's going to be a really good hitter. He's a 45 home run guy at Citizens Bank Park.
Is he? You're right, in that ballpark especially. So will they go Hoskins-Harper or Hopper-Hoskins?
Harper-Hoskins.
Like
and
that.
Probably Segura, too, and McCutchen leading off, or Segura to lead off, and then Real Muto fifth, and either McCutchen fifth or Real Muto. And then you got Herrera, and you got Franco hit 20 home runs last year, led the team in average. So a lot of people were down on him, but he's a 20 home run guy. They could set the record for home runs.
No, they could. And DeGrom wants a lot of money for my Mets. He's got to face you guys 19 times this year. He'll get to prove it. By the way, Harper, in the first 11 games for the Phillies this season, the first 11 games, they faced the Nationals 5 times. So Harper will get a chance to exact revenge very early on. Mike Missinelli, afternoon host, 97.5 The Fanatic in Philadelphia. Hey, Mike, what's the future for a guy that won the Super Bowl at quarterback 2 years ago and very nearly had another dramatic Cinderella run this year, Nick Foles? What do you think his future is?
Well, I don't know. They couldn't trade him, but I think Jacksonville figured that the Eagles are going to have to release him and let him go free agency. So Jacksonville looks like the only team that makes really good sense for him. I don't know what the market's going to be. I mean, maybe the Giants reach out to him. Maybe Washington reaches out to him. But I think it's Jacksonville or bust for this guy.
Hey, last one. I know Embiid is banged up. Didn't play last night, and the Sixers lost to Golden State. But when that team is healthy with all those guys, Butler and Simmons and Embiid and Redick, could be as good as any team inside the East. I know Milwaukee's very good. Tough loss last night in Utah, Toronto as well. But what are the realistic expectations these days in Philly about the 76ers?
Well, for me, Sid, I've been saying they've got to win the East, or I take a critical look at the head coach.
Well, listen, I don't think he's the right guy for the job anyway.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. If they lose, here's the thing: they have to get to the 3 seed. They can't face Boston in the first round. Boston's been their kryptonite, and I think they will get to the 3rd seed because Indiana's going to lose naturally and get bumped down there. So that gives them a first round match against the Nets. They win that, and they have to beat Toronto to get to the Eastern Finals. And Milwaukee's formidable. So I think the Sixers have the best lineup in a 7-game series to win the East. I don't think they're ready to beat Golden State in a 7-game series. I think that'll happen next year. So ironically, 5 years ago, Sid, I made a prediction that by the year 2020, Philadelphia would have 2 champions and 2 contenders.
Wow.
So it's either the Phillies or the Sixers in 2020 or the Eagles. You're talking about the city of champions, Sid.
No, I know. It's really annoying because, no disrespect, but Philly, Boston, Chicago, all you guys are kind of a miniature version of us. We're the real big city, New York, and you guys win and we don't. I just don't get it.
You got to get up in management up there. You got to get in their grill.
No, you're right. Believe me, we do. We do plenty. But, during the week, of course, I discuss more important things like, North Korea, and this week, of course, Michael Cohen. That's very important.
And of course, the wall's very important, Sid. The wall. You got to build a wall.
Well, I'd like to build a wall on Broad Street, to be honest with you. Hey, Mike, you were great. I'm very happy for your success, and please keep coming back. We enjoyed this today, Mike Missinelli. Thank you.
I'll block you on Twitter. I'll have to revise that.
Yes, unblock it so I can send you something nice. A great job today, Mike. I enjoyed you. Thank you. All right, pal. Enjoy your Sunday. There he is, afternoon host, 97.5, The Fanatic in Philadelphia. Now you know why the guy's great. There he is, Mike Missinelli. Excellent job. We'll take a short break. When we get back, it started with a website. Now he's Mr. Football in America. Literally, Sunday nights, NBC. ProFootballTalk.com creator Mike Florio talking NFL. Back here on Sid Sports Sunday. So many years ago, Danny Biancullo loved this segment with Mike Missinelli and the guy from Dallas, Jake Kemp. Many years ago, I was down in Miami and trying to get back to New York, which thank God I got back to it 3 years ago. But one of the guys that hopped on with me many years ago when he was just starting a website, was not a big star by any means, West Virginia website, knew his football, obviously, but that was it. It was Mike Florio. So Florio would go on like 100 shows a week, and he would list on ProFootballTalk.com on a daily basis all the shows he would do, Monday, Tuesday. And he would always just mention the names of the shows, nothing real creative, except with me. He'd be like Sid the Great or all this stuff. He would always add something when he mentioned my show in Miami to differentiate me from the rest. And it was great. It was on every week. There was football. Something happened. I don't know. And we kind of lost touch for a couple of years. But now, of course, Chris Sims and his father, Phil. Phil's one of my best friends. Seeing Mike with Chris in Atlanta and saying hello to Mike on Radio Row, was like, I gotta get back with Florio. And look, to his credit, testament to him, he's become a star. He's Mr. Football. Whether it's the website, ProFootballTalk.com, the show 7 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time every morning on the NBC cable network, or Sunday nights, NBC Football Night in America. Him and Dungy and Rodney and Tarico and Chris. Mike Florio has really become Mr. Football. I got to give him credit. So here he is, making his debut on Sid Sports Sunday. My pal Mike Florio. Good morning, Mike.
Sid, hello. How are you? It's nice to talk to you. And I appreciate all of that. I listened to most of it. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. All I know is all of a sudden you had some of my colleagues on your radio show, and you're calling me nasty words.
I did.
Well, I guess the guy's mad at me. I'm not sure what I did.
Well, you did. I did. I'm never the type, Mike, as you know, to shy away from that. I'm like, what happened to Mike? He was such a cool guy. Then became such a dick. And I'm like, I don't know. You said something. I may have overreacted. I know that sounds crazy for a Brooklyn, New York kid. I may have. But something did happen, but I don't care because that's water under the bridge, and I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. You happen to be a very nice guy. And listen, I've gone through a lot, okay, Mike? So just give me a break, okay?
Okay, that's fine. It was just funny. It was one of those things where when I heard about it, it's like, well, I don't know what I did. And see, as an Italian, I like to do my insults deliberately so I can enjoy them. It always concerns me when I get on somebody's bad side and I didn't mean to. I do it all the time when I mean to, and I never really enjoy it as much when it happens accidentally.
That's funny. That's a great answer. But on a serious note, when you and I became friendly, you had the website, you were budding, it was starting for you, but could you have ever imagined, Mike, about a decade later, Sunday nights, NBC, the 4-hour show every morning, the popularity of the website? I mean, this thing really has blown up, and you can never imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing it 17 years now, and for the first 6 or 7 years, it was just kind of a gradual growth, and I always had just kind of a guiding principle to make a destination that I would want to spend time at if I were the one on the other side of the screen, and I knew that people in the league were reading what we were writing, and I knew that we were gaining traction, and I knew that if we just tried to keep building the audience, that eventually it would work out. That's why I did so much radio at the time, free radio at the time for a long time, just to get the word out. It's the best way to get the word out. It's advertising. People don't even realize they're being advertised to. And it just kind of popped one day, and I had a vague sense that it could all lead somewhere good, but you know how things like this go. If you try to direct it a certain way, that's the way it's never going to go. I just knew that if I kept working on it, that at some point it would hit, and it hit, and 10 years later, here we are. It's great because I got out of practicing law, which you can ask anybody who's currently practicing law. The one thing they'd love to do most is find a way out of it because it is not an easy life. If you're in a litigation practice, you are fighting all the time. You are working all the time. You are thinking about your client's cases all the time, and it will wear you down. And I'm happy that I got over the wall, and all the other ones that are still in the prison are mad at me that I got over the wall, but that's the way it is when you practice law. So I don't look back at that at all. And it's been a great run with NBC, and we hope it continues for another 10 years or more.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great story. You're right about lawyers, too. I'm married to one. So tell me this, Mike. A lot of big stories out there in the NFL. I want to start with Antonio Brown, only because he is a monster superstar. I think Jet fans, a lot of them, having these dreams of maybe him ending up with the young quarterback here in New York. What do you think the future is for Antonio Brown?
Well, I'll tell you this. If Adam Gase, the new coach of the Jets, wasn't willing to put up with Jarvis Landry, he's definitely not going to put up with a guy like Antonio Brown. And the more Antonio Brown says, the harder he makes it to find a trade partner, because a trade partner is going to have to give the Steelers what they want, reportedly a first-round pick, although my guess is they'll take what they can get for the guy at this point. But Brown wants a new contract, and Brown keeps saying, hey, it's going to be by my rules. No coach wants to hear a player say it's going to be by my rules. Who wants the guy if that's what he's putting out there? And I don't know what he's trying to provoke with the Steelers, but I'm going to be writing something later today that kind of spells out how this all could really explode. And I think this becomes potentially, and it's been teetering on that line for the past couple of months, this becomes 2005 Terrell Owens trying to get out of Philadelphia all over again, but with a far greater range of weapons available to the player because T.O. didn't have social media, and we've seen Antonio Brown already use it to his advantage to just try to blast his way out of Pittsburgh. And at some point, I think Pittsburgh's going to stand up and play hardball with him, and it's going to become an even bigger story because I just think they're going to have a hard time lining it up because you got to make the Steelers happy, you got to make Brown happy, and you got to make yourself happy that you're not inheriting someone else's problem.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, and of course 7 to 11 every morning on the NBC cable network. That terrific show. Chris Sims, all those guys involved. Tell me this: the franchise tag deadline is, I believe, 4:00 on Tuesday. Giant fans wondering what's the future with Landon Collins. What are you hearing there?
Well, Dave Gettleman of the GM of the Giants does a very good job. The whole organization does a good job of holding the cards close to the vest. So I don't know what they're going to do. It's an 8-figure one-year salary. The franchise tag is safety. A lot of people out there think that safeties don't have that kind of value. So it is quite possible that they would let him hit the open market. And at a time when there's so much talk about the Cowboys going after the great Seahawks safety, Earl Thomas, I'd be more concerned as a Giants fan that Landon Collins is going to resurface as a member of the Cowboys in the same division. But, that's the problem with the franchise tag. If the value really doesn't match where the market currently is, and for some of the positions, because it's a 5-year rolling average, you can have a franchise tag number that seems a little too high for where the market currently is for those positions. You get a team that says, you know what, we're not going to use the tag, and we're just going to let them hit the market. And then the fail-safe is that 48-hour window when the guy can go out there and see what other teams are offering, because there's a chance that other teams aren't offering any more than what the Giants would be willing to pay him.
You talk about the possibility of that safety, Earl Thomas, going to Dallas. Dallas is the top story today, right there on ProFootballTalk.com, Mike Florio, and that is the future of DeMarcus Lawrence. I guess they're going to tag him before Tuesday, or not. What's the deal with DeMarcus in Dallas?
Well, I think they are going to tag him because they can't work out a long-term deal. The reality of the franchise tag, that provides the starting point for any long-term deal, and because they tagged Lawrence last year at $17.1 million, this year he gets a 20% bump by rule to $20.56 million, and next year he'd get a 44% bump by rule to north of $29 million. That's a $50 million payout over 2 years. Now, I don't know that the Cowboys would pay him $29 million next year, but from his perspective, you're looking at a significant payday right out of the gates on a long-term deal. Otherwise, you say, fine, I'll take the $20.56 million. And there's two other factors to keep in mind here. One, last year, Le'Veon Bell proved to everyone that on that second tag, you can sit out the whole year and basically force your way to market the next year. That's something that's available to DeMarcus Lawrence. And also, he's got a shoulder injury that needs surgery, and he said, I'm not getting it done until I sign a long-term deal. Now, whether he means it or not, that could make this thing very awkward and unfortunate for the Cowboys if he ends up delaying surgery to the point where it would affect his preparedness for the start of the season. So this one has the potential to get a little thorny, and the Cowboys are trying to figure out how they're going to keep Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Byron Jones. They're going to have to pay a lot of guys a lot of money, and the guy on deck right now for a huge payday is DeMarcus Lawrence.
T. Ford in Kansas City, he gets tagged as well. Let me talk to you about the Combine. I don't watch all of it, to be honest, but I know tomorrow's the last day. Quarterback position always interests me because as a Giant fan, Mike, I'm looking towards the future for Eli Manning. I know Manning, Gettleman's pretty much said it. He's going to start week 1 again, 2019 for the Giants, but Giants have also pretty much publicly admitted they're getting ready for the future. Well, Kyler Murray they won't get in all likelihood, but maybe Haskins out of Ohio State. I think that Haskins and Murray and Luck, you know what you're getting. I did read and hear, by the way, that Donnie Jones, the talented quarterback out of North Carolina, did not look as good. Is that accurate?
Well, I don't put a whole lot of stock in the combine workouts because you're talking about guys who are out there throwing the football to receivers they don't know.
Right.
And if there's a bad throw, whose fault is it? And that's why it's smart for a lot of these guys to not work out. Now, most in the media get upset when guys choose not to work out because what are we going to talk about if they don't work out? Well, too bad. They got to make a business decision. Business decision. They haven't been making business decisions their whole life. Now they're in a position where they can. Kyler Murray doesn't want to work out. That's his call. So I don't put any stock in that. The thing about the Giants, though, we were talking earlier about how they keep their cards close to the vest. The thing I've noticed as it relates to the quarterback position, it's almost like they sent out an internal memo that use this term Kansas City model as much as you can. And that's a reflection on what the Chiefs did 2 years ago when they had Alex Smith. They drafted Patrick Mahomes. Smith played one more year, and then they moved on from Smith and gave the ball to Mahomes. That's fine, but it almost feels like it's forced. It feels like they're trying too hard to sell everybody on the idea that they're looking for a quarterback with that 6th overall pick. So for a team that typically says nothing to all of a sudden be saying, hey, we like this Kansas City model, I'm inclined to think that's a load of crap. I don't know what they're planning to do, but I think they've already decided that they're not going to take a quarterback with that 6th pick. That's the only fair way to interpret them being all of a sudden so candid about this notion that they're looking for a quarterback that they can put on the bench for a year behind Eli.
Let me ask you about 2 veteran quarterbacks, Mike, then we'll let you run. I just had Mike Missanelli on in Philadelphia talking about Bryce Harper, but of course I asked him about Nick Foles, who's only 2 years removed from a Super Bowl win in Philly. He seems to think the next destination may be Tom Coughlin and Jacksonville. They're done with Blake Bortles. Let's start there. What do you see next for Nick Foles?
Well, there aren't many options out there for Nick Foles. We wrote something about this yesterday. There are 3 teams looking for starters right now. The Dolphins, the Jaguars, and Washington. Washington can't afford Nick Foles because they got a bunch of money tied up in Alex Smith.
Now, when you say, so is Alex Smith never going to play again? Is that almost like a Theismann thing?
Well, it's become a given that he's not going to play this year. I know that the team has tried to deny that, but some in the organization, like Doug Williams, have come out and said we're not expecting him to play. But he had, the serious compound fracture, the infection. He's still got an external fixator on the leg. He's been photographed out in public with this apparatus that's holding everything together. So I don't know if he ever plays again, but 2019's off the table, and they need a quarterback. But you can't go out and pay Nick Foles when you're already paying Alex Smith. So it comes down to Dolphins and Jaguars, and if one of those teams really doesn't want him, if they both don't want him, then he's screwed. But if only one of those 2 wants him, how do you maximize your leverage? And I've put the over-under at $25 million a year when you look at the other contracts out there. He's going to try his damnedest, I think, to get north of 25, but he may have a hard time doing it. And when you consider all the guys currently north of $25 million and what little success they've had in the postseason, and some of them have never won a playoff game. A lot of them who are making more than $25 million have never won a playoff game. The idea that a guy who was a Super Bowl MVP and carried the Eagles on his back is going to have to fight and scratch and claw to get there is kind of amazing. But I think teams are now more inclined, after how good the rookies have been the past couple of years, if you're going to go one way or the other, you're going to be more inclined to go with a young guy, a cheap guy, and a guy who may be your quarterback for the next 15 seasons.
Last 1 minute to go. I read this on ProFootballTalk.com this morning. The other veteran quarterback is Derek Carr. Miserable season for John Gruden, Oakland Raiders. They seem to be fighting almost every week on the sidelines in Oakland. What's going on here with Derek Carr?
There was a report yesterday from a guy with Bleacher Report that the Raiders were shopping at the Combine. I poked around on that. I don't believe that to be true. And first of all, you can't shop Derek Carr unless you know damn well who the replacement's going to be. And it's impossible at this point to know who you would replace him with because the draft hasn't happened. And I don't know, you're going to do a wink-nod deal with a free agent before you even know whether or not you've got a trade partner for Derek Carr. He's got $20 million due this year, fully guaranteed. So if you line up a deal with a guy like Nick Foles or Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then you can't trade Derek Carr, you're screwed. So I don't buy that one. I don't think that Carr necessarily is the guy for the next 5 years in Oakland, but I think at least for now, they're stuck with the guy in his guaranteed salary, and you better have another bird in the hand before you let go of the one you have in the other hand.
God, it's so good to have you back. I got to tell you, man, I missed you. You're still your best. You're the best.
Back. No, I never said back. This is a one-time thing, Sid.
Oh, we're done?
Yeah, we're done.
Son of a...
You can go back to calling me bad names again, my friend. Call up Sims and tell him what a dick I am.
I did. I texted Chris last night. I go, I said bad stuff about Florio, but I want to make this thing better. I want to try to fix it. Send me his number. Honestly, it was great having you back.
That's how you got my number?
Yes.
Now I know. Okay.
Yes.
Well, now I know who to wear out.
Chris,
I gotta go so I can call Chris and give him a hard time.
You're great, Mike. Thank you, buddy.
All right, buddy.
Thank you so much. God, Mike Florio is so good. ProFootballTalk.com, 7 to 11 every morning. NBC, the cable network. And yes, Chris Sims is the guy that set this thing up. See what we did on Sid Sports Sunday today? Mike Missanelli and I are friends now. Mike Florio and I are friends now. What's next? Trump and Schumer?
This is Sid Sports Sunday, driven by Ramsey Mazda every Sunday, 77 WABC.